where someone said there's a 12% cut to the reimbursements to the Catholic schools. Just so everyone knows, first of all, it wasn't a 12% cut. It was a 2% cut across the board. As you remember, we went back to Albany to do some of the restructuring that's started already. There was a 2% across the board cut in Albany on every service. And that 2% was on the increase. That's another thing to remember. Overall, aid to the Catholic schools went up. The cut was on the increase. It's an important stipulation. You need to know that the cut was on the increase, not overall the aid went up.
Thank you. Mr. Faulkner.
Has anybody understood that that was double speak, triple speak, quadruple speak? It went up before it went down before you don't have it. Listen, I'm in favor of vouchers. One of the reasons we have those unfunded mandates or mandates at all is because of the teachers union. They want to have more puffery so that they can get more money when they go for their contracts. One of the things we don't need is any of those mandates. One of the solutions is, and I brought it up before, is we need a new information delivery system. We need it now. It already exists, as it turns out, in the homeschooling program where the computers come in and they teach, and it's less onerous on the parent himself being with there the way it used to be. Also in Chappaqua, Mamaroneck, and Scarsdale, the information delivery system is by computer for the elite students. And it's up to them if they ever want to walk into a classroom. It's up to them if they ever want to do homework, because the computer polls them all the time and makes it happen whether they know it or not. And of course, if they don't do well, then they have to come back into the school system. It turns out they excel, and they're more socialized because they don't have to put up with riffraff. Public school system is the bane of education right now because of the unions. We have to subsidize the students' learning and stop subsidizing the teachers' failures. Thanks.
Okay. Next question.
Gina Riley from 27th Street Approvers. Question to Mr. Spano. Assuming that the Democrats take over the Senate this coming election time, the RAP bill is guaranteed to come back. Mrs. Cousins told me this herself, under a so-called changed form. As it stands, or as it will stand, the healthcare professional definition in the bill includes medical social workers, podiatrists, optometrists, as well as other people. How would it be safe for this bill to allow safe, rare abortions, if this is included in the RAP bill as it is now, that these people would be able to do abortions on women?
I'll explain briefly. Both candidates have an opportunity to answer every question, and since we're taking turns, I know you directed your question, but it is Mr. Faulkner's turn to go first.
Yay! Well, I'm a pro-life candidate. I'm a right-to-life human being. I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm a parishioner of Christ the King. I don't believe a life should be terminated, whether it's too old in someone's eyes or too young in another person's eyes. I come from this from an odd point of view. I come from this from the Father's Rights group. I come from this from a man who wants to have children and make sure those children are born. I come from a group of people that don't want to see their money wasted. I come from a group of people that want to support the kids that they procreate. I come from a group of people that find other people are terminating their future. I think we should stop having abortion in the state of New York because of those reasons. I think what we should do is we should stop funding publicly any abortion. I don't see any reason for it. It didn't exist before. It seems to be much worse now. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Spano.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. There have been many bills, just so everyone knows, I think everyone knows this, I am very much pro-choice, but I've supported many bills that had conscience clauses in them that would never force a religious institution to do something that was against their religion. And I will continue to be a staunch supporter of that, because I don't think that we should ever force an institution to do something that is totally against their beliefs. And I'll certainly look at that bill the same way as I've looked at other bills in the past. one thing that we do agree upon, Jim and I, that there are too many abortions. And how can we come together, and how can we agree to do what we can to try and reduce the number of unwanted pregnancies amongst our youth. And I think that's the big challenge for all of us, making sure that there's age-appropriate sex education, making sure that our children have the knowledge firsthand, so that this way, their decision is never one to have to go to an abortion.
You still have 30 seconds if you.
That's right.
Thank you. Next question. You can come on up to the mic and just wait here at the same time longer.
I would just like to
Could
clarify.
we have your name and address, please?
My name is Sonia Hammer, and I live in Crestwood, Yonkers. I would just like a clarification of the answer to the last question. We were talking about conscience of individuals. I thought you said
No, I'll
conscience
answer the
of
question.
institutions.
Sure.
So would you please clarify that?
Conscience of institutions. We want to make sure that hospitals, especially Catholic hospitals, are not forced to do any type of procedure that is not consistent with our faith. And I absolutely agree with that. Is that fair?
Mr. Faulkner?
You know, there's more to that bill than what is alluded to. A dental technician can perform an abortion. Other people that have health care, somebody who picks somebody up and is licensed, a home care worker can perform an abortion. These are the things why that bill is no good. This is the reason why it is unfathomable why Andrew Stewart Cousins supports it. The other thing I don't understand is Mike Spano, when he says that he doesn't think that there should be more abortions, is why he voted in April to not have partial birth abortion a felony. How insane is that? Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
I remember earlier in the debate, Mike Spano brought up.
I'm sorry.
Matthew Stapleton, 1132 Mossborough. Brought up Yonkers Raceway, seeing it as a big success. I agree, but I believe that the job's not finished. Are there still efforts going in to get table games? I think that would bring more revenue to the city of Yonkers.
Thank you. That will be Mr. Faulkner first.
You know, it's interesting how the legislature works. They don't ever do anything whole. Patterson said we can sell gas leases, but he's not sure about oil leases. Mike Spano says we shouldn't sell either until we have an EPA evaluation. You know, a long time ago it was said that we shouldn't have any gambling. Wasn't that interesting? He said it was destroying the moral fabric of the United States, and now we're supposed to have more gambling. And yes, we should. Why don't we make it a casino? Absolutely. What I find interesting, though, is Mike Spano says that that revenue stream that's coming into New York and Yonkers, we're going to give them a tax relief on that. Why is that? That's one of the things. The other thing is if we have all of this money from all this gambling, how come our schools and how come our tax bases go up so much and our schools don't get the revenue? What's happening to it? Thanks.
Mr. Spano.
Thank you. That was a very good question. A couple things. As you know, there are constitutional constraints. The state constitution very specifically says you cannot have table games in New York State. Only the Indian reservations have had them. We cannot. It's very specific and would require a constitutional change, which would take at least 4 years to get passed, 2 separate houses of legislature, right, once every 2 years, and then put forth to the voters for referendum. So that is all something I would support. Is something that is really, I think, given the legislature, is probably going to be a long time off. But video lottery terminals, huge success for the city. Yonkers Raceway came into town. Well, obviously we've always had Yonkers Raceway, but video lottery terminals were allowed and enacted into law. And as a result, Yonkers Raceway is the single private, largest private employer of people, not next to the hospitals. Private employer of people. They're the #1 property taxpayer in the city. They're the #1 contributor to education in the city. As you know, it's just been an overall home run from Yonkers. All the jobs, all the additional aid. Does it feed the beast? You know,